Hey guys, Presented here, back in the FlashDevelop, sort of explaining what's going on with my game so far, just to show you what I've been doing with it. If you haven't already seen it, you should see the previous sort of episode that I did on this that goes more in depth on explaining what is happening with me and recording and stuff, because I know I have, a non-insignificant amount of subscribers, and I feel like I should keep you guys updated with what's going on. But if you're interested, go watch that video, because I explain everything in the beginning. Also, I have the state of affairs videos that you can watch as well if you want. But for now, I said I was going to just jump right into it in the last video, and I'm going to, because in this episode, I want to show you what's up with the battle system. And before I can do that, I have to sort of explain how my code works in the game, because excuse me, my throat is a little bit sore right now, but because in the combat it uses debugging from the code that I want to show you how it works, so that it makes sense whenever you see the debugging battle description code, whatever. So anyway, basically, in my game, I have a class called the stat change event. And in a stat change event, this is the class that you use if you want to do anything regarding changing an entity's stat, which, it makes sense, because of the class name and everything. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just basically make one right now just to show you what it does. It takes a few things. It takes the changing stat, which is any stat that an entity has. Any one of these can work, but for here, let's just do a current health, since that's one of the easiest stats to follow, because current health is equal to 500 at the start, and so you give it the stat that you want to change, and then this string that you give next is called the change type, and this type is basically you put in whatever type of change. The variable name explains it pretty well, and so you put in whatever you want. The description also says what you should know. It's the type of change the changing stat will go under. Attack, a change from a basic attack. Spell, a change from the use of a spell, or buff, anything that benefits the target. Pretty simple stuff. So for damage from a basic attack, you'd put a current health attack. If you want to do damage from a spell, say from poison or bleed, you do a current health spell. And if you want to do a heal, then it'd be a current health buff. And that basically goes the same for anything else. If you do let's say a constitution debuff from a spell, you'd put spell. But let's say for whatever reason you have an attack that does something like that, then you put attack. Or if it's a buff from a spell or an ally or whatever, you'd be buff. So anyway, I had this for attack, and I had this as current health. And then you give it a target entity, which for this I'll just do player. Then you give it a source entity, ally 1, and then you give it a change. This change can either be numerical or a boolean, basically. Literally, it can be anything, given that I did this little asterisk symbol, which means you can give it anything you want, but the code only works with either numerals. That's weird, Roman. No. Anyway, it either works with either numbers or booleans, since all the entity stats, disregarding their actual name and the type and shit that they are, everything else is either going to be a number or a boolean, which is a boolean is a true or false. And so stuff like can cast spells, if they can cast spells, then it's true. If they can't, then it's false. And so yeah, the change will be the change you use if you want, let's say I put it to -10. Then what will happen is it'll go into the target entity's current health stat and change it by -10. So pretty simple. And if you do a heal for a buff and you wanted to heal them by 10, you do that. It's pretty simple stuff, so hopefully you can follow that pretty well. Or let's say you do something like can cast spells, and then you do it from a spell, let's say a silence. Spiel! Look at that. Can cast spells. Let's say you silence them. change won't be numerical because it's a Boolean, so you set it to false, and so it'll set can cast spells to false. So yeah, pretty good, pretty simple. Let's get that back. Okay, and then you do rounds. If it's true, then once this change goes into effect, it'll round this stat to the nearest whole number. If you put true, if you put false, it'll round it to the nearest hundredths. Just because sometimes I want it to round, sometimes I don't want it to round. In the case of like critical strike chance, I don't want that to round, but I want health to round. And this is set equal. If I set this to true, then it sets his current health to this number rather than adding or subtracting it. So that's set to false by default. And this is, you feed it a status effect listener if you're doing something with the status effect, which I'm not here. This is just a flat change. So anyway, now that that's out of the way, I want to go as fast as possible because I want you to actually see the combat itself. I want to now show you sort of like the specials themselves and how they work. So I already made a preset one just to show you what it is. So basically what you do is you give it a display name. This goes at the end of the weapon name. So if you get like a wooden sword of poison, it would put of poison there. So it'd be like wooden sword of poison, wooden sword of exposing, wooden sword of lethality. Hopefully you get the gist of that. This next string I have empty because you only set this if you want a status effect to say that specific string rather than what the status effects actually do. Because for instance, whenever you stun an entity, effectively what stunning is basically just a silence coupled with a disarm, because silence makes them unable to cast spells and a disarm makes them unable to attack. And a stun is a combination of the two, but instead of the program saying that you both silenced and disarmed the entity, I wanted to just say you stunned them. So that's what you do whenever you set that. I have a blank because this doesn't do anything with status effects. This is a the description, just like, you know, whatever the description of the special is. I have a sort of semi-automated description maker, so I won't go into that at all. Just, you know, don't worry about it. And this next number is the chance. This is the chance that you have of activating this special. So this is 100, so this is 100% chance, but sometimes I have stuff that's only 50%. So like this bleed up here, this bleed has a 50% chance of activating. And then of course a 50% chance of not activating. And then this Boolean is add to array. It's basically going to always be true in the case of all of these, because what this does is if it's true, then it adds itself to the main array of specials. And then from there, I can use that array to get whatever special I want. Or in the case of like my random special or get random special, it pulls a random special from the array. And so in the case of, let's say, user created specials, I don't want those added to the array so that they don't get pulled on random special generation for other weapons. I just want it for that weapon that they made. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And then you feed it as many listeners you want. And what the listener does is it listens for a specific kind of stat change event that I showed you earlier. So for instance, for this one, this is listening for a current health attack. So whenever any stat change event goes through, that's a current health attack, this special or this listener pops and it's like, yo, I'm listening for this kind of special, so activate my code so that I can do what I want to do. And then you give it the change type. So whenever whenever this listener activates, because most listeners are going to activate new stat change events, because for something like lifesteal, lifesteal damage returns as health that you deal. So the new stat change event that goes through is a current health buff, since that's what a heal is. So for this one, this is going to be a buff. Basically what this special is doing is it's healing the owner for 50% of their missing health when they attack. So this one's just a buff, since a heal is a buff. This is the applied target, so if you put in source, then it heals, or the listener affects the source of the change. So whenever the player attacks and the player has that special, since this is source, it's going to affect the player, since the player is the source of the change. I can set it to target, and it'll affect the target of the change rather than the source. This is the stat to change. It's current health, since it's going to be a heal, and this is the base stat, which is what it's going to use for this multiplier here. And so it's going to get your missing health, multiply that by 0.5, and heal you as a result, or heal you from like that number that it generated from here. And then this is positive. If it's true, then that means it's a good change. If it's false, it means it's a bad change. On source is if it's true, then the listener only applies whenever the owner deals the change, or whenever the owner deals this change. So since this is true, no, that's rounds, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, no, it's all the way back here. I'm dumb. I'm getting farther ahead than I want. Anyway, since on source is true, then this will only apply when a current health attack is dealt from a source. If this was false, then this listener would only apply whenever the owner of the listener gets dealt, or is the target of this type of change, which hopefully makes a little bit of sense. So for something like lifesteal is true because lifesteal only applies whenever the source of the weapon damage deals an attack. If it was false, then the player or the owner of the weapon would get healed whenever they took damage, which isn't lifesteal. It's lifesteal. No, it's not. It's not lifesteal. So yeah. Anyway, true or false for is source. This is pre. If it's false, then that means this listener will take into effect after the initial change goes through. So for something like damage reduction is pre. So damage reduction would be true here, and the listener would change the damage before it's actually applied. But if it's false, then the damage would go through and then the listener would apply. So that's good for something like lifesteal, because lifesteal is false on here, because if the damage value that you deal is changed for whatever reason, let's say for damage reduction, the lifesteal should apply for the damage you actually deal rather than the damage that you would have dealt, if that makes sense. And the last variable, rounds, I actually don't need to set this because its default is true, and rounds basically makes it round to the nearest whole number, and if it's false, then it rounds to the nearest hundredth place. Hopefully I didn't take too long on that, and I will now show you what it looks like, because I set the special to this right here, and now I can actually start the frickin' program and show you how it's done. Anyway, so here we go. So now what we have here is the player weapon, of course, smooth wooden short sword of ASD, the description, and then this is the description of the special. So what happens is whenever the player, so let's go back here. So whenever since on source is true, oh, wrong one. Since on source is true, whenever the owner of this listener, which is right here, so whenever the owner of that listener, which is the player, whenever the owner deals this kind of change, then change that owner's, since this is the source, change the source of the change's current health by 50% of their missing health. And that change that's going to go through is a buff. So what you'll see here is the player attacked the ally for 30 damage. So this shows you, this is the debug code that I wanted to explain stuff before I showed you this. So this shows you the target name, which is in this case, since the player attacked the ally is the target of the damage, the source is the player, the change type is a current health attack, and it's by a factor of -30. So it shows you the stat before change, which is 500, and then the stat after the change, which is 470. So one stat change event actually takes two lines of text here. And so then you can actually see the special go into play, because since the player was the source and a current health attack was dealt, his special procced, and it went to the source of the damage, which is the player. So here, target name player, source name player, since the player is basically healing himself, and the change type is a current health buff by 16, since the factor is by 0.5 of his missing health. The player's health is 469, so what we can do here is get out a calculator, and 469 divided by 500, so he has, let's do 1 minus 469 divided by 500, oops, 500. So that's, he's missing did I do times 100? Yeah, 6.2% of his missing health. Or he's missing 6.2% of his health, which if we divide by 100 again, times 500, so that's 31 health, and you heal for half of that, so 15.5, and it rounds, so it's 16. And so, you know, 16 right there. It works. And then the ally attacks the player for 16 damage. The ally has no specials, so he doesn't really have anything special going on here. It's just damage. Player attacks again. He deals damage again, and he is the source, so his special procs and heals him by 50% of his missing health, and it goes on and on and on up until someone dies. And so, in the end, the ally died just because the percent missing health heal is incredibly powerful, and it's just like if you're missing a lot of your health, like let's say you have 1 out of 500, or rather 1 minus 1 out of 500, you're missing 99.8% of your health, times 500, of course, that makes, and then divided by 2. You would heal for 250 health. You know, that's basically, that is half your health. You're healing for half of your health, which is nuts. Percent missing health and percent missing mana damage or heals get really powerful the less health you have. So anyway, that is all that nonsense. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a new battle from some pretty decent synergies. So here, the player has lifesteal, which 20% damage returns his health. And then he has healing buff armor, or healed buff armor, where he gets 25% bonus healing taken. The ally has broken stone short sword of bleed, which has a 50% chance to inflict health bleed for 3 turns. And bleed is basically percent health, or percent missing health damage. So bleed deals more damage the lower health you are. And also the ally has reflect armor, where 15% of attack damage taken is reflected. So anyway, now that I went through all of that, I can show you this cooler battle. So anyway, the ally attacks, he has no special, or rather, he had no special that procced. The 50% chance didn't apply since it failed the check. And then the player attacked the ally, and for 30 damage, so 38 damage, and then he had a current health buff, so 20%. So actually I can show you what happened here. He has 20% lifesteal, but 25% bonus healing taken. So what you'll do here is he dealt 38 damage. 38 times 0.2 is, oh, I did that incorrectly, times 0.2, 7.6, but then that's multiplied by 25%, which is 9.5, which then rounds up to 10. So the 25% bonus healing taken applies to lifesteal, which I thought is pretty cool. And then the player took damage from the ally because the ally has reflect. So yeah, he has reflect damage, which I think is 15%. So then 38 times 0.15, 5.7, that rounds up to 6. And then it keeps going. Let's wait until where does the ally bleed? Oh, here we go. Finally popped. The ally one bled the player. So now, before the start of a new turn, the player takes damage equal to a percentage of his missing health. And that goes on for either 3 turns or until the ally bleeds the player again. So we can see here that the player took 8 damage first. Then the next turn he took 10 damage because his health was lower here than it was here. So his missing health was higher here, so he took more damage. And then, unless the ally bled again, oh, he did bleed again. He took more damage. If the ally didn't bleed again, then the bleed would be gone here, since it was already 3 turns. Like 1, 2... No, I'm doing this wrong. 1, 2, and then 3. And it would have been gone here, but the ally got lucky and bled him again. So anyway, it goes on and on and on, where the player heals for a percentage of the health that he deals. The ally reflects damage that the player deals, and the ally every now and then bleeds the player for a percent of his missing health. Let's see if I can... Oh, he bled him again. Ooh, I think I might... 1, 2... No, he got lucky again. Oh, and it was the end of the battle. I was trying to see if I could find an instance where the ally didn't bleed the player in time, and you could see the bleed going away because it wouldn't show up again. But as you can see, near the end, the bleed is dealing a lot of damage, 42 damage, as opposed to the like 8 it was doing before and the 10 it was doing before. And then here's doing even more damage, 47. And by this time, the player didn't have enough damage to kill the ally, and the ally eventually killed the player because bleed is very powerful the less health you have. And the player actually, funny thing is, I didn't set any safety nets yet, but the player actually died here because you can see the stat after change is 0, and so it's pretty funny because he died and he still got to attack. So I thought that was pretty funny. So the ally actually would have had 120 health, and oh, whoa, okay. Yeah, because that would have been bad if I didn't have that safety net, because the player attacked and his health actually got up to 3 before the ally attacked again. If he was able to keep some of his health, the battle would have continued. But I should have made it to where if he died here, then he would have stopped attacking and the battle would have ended. But this is a rudimentary battle system. I don't expect it to be perfect, and it's going to work whenever I may implement it in game properly. But for now, this is just fine. And then the player died, and then you can see the ending stats. Player health 0 out of 500 because he's dead. Player mana, they don't use mana, but I do it anyway because there are some specials that affect mana. And then the ally 1 health. It was a pretty close battle. If the ally didn't get super lucky and bleed many times, the player had a very good chance of winning. And what I can do for like a little ending thing, I'm actually going to get rid of this special because I don't want it. Oh, I did get rid of it. Okay, let me get rid of it here then. And right here. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a function that, that gives me a random special. And we can see how that works. So this get random special function is going to pull a random special from here for the weapon and then from here for the armor. And we can get some crazy combinations. The ally had a very big advantage on this battle, but we'll see what happened. Okay, the player had a health sap weapon where he had a 50% chance to inflict health sap for 3 turns, which basically health sap is overtime lifesteal. It deals a poison damage for 3 turns, and it heals you for damage that you deal for those like poison things. Yeah, and then he had magic resistance, which he gets 20% reduced magic damage taken, which doesn't even help him at all because the ally does no magic damage, so that kind of sucks. But then the ally had power special where he deals, basically just increases his damage by 15%. And then he had invulnerability, which whenever he gets attacked, he has a 25% chance to become immune to attack damage for 2 turns. So we might be able to see it here. Player attacked, he didn't health sap. Yeah, right here, the ally shielded themselves, and so on the next turn, when the player attacks the ally, it's for 0 damage because he's shielded and he can't get damage. He actually got shielded again, which is really lucky because that's a 25% chance that popped twice in a row. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, and then he got shielded even again. So this is why the ally had such a good advantage, probably because he got shielded so luckily. It's actually oh, it's funny because the player health sapped him, but since the player dealt 0 damage, the health sap doesn't deal any damage either, which is kind of funny to me at least. So yeah, the health sap doesn't do anything. Let's see when the player can actually start hurting him. There we go. The player attacked him there. Player attacked him there. And he shielded himself again. Yeah, that's the reason why the ally won so hard, because the invulnerability helped him out a lot. And what happened here? Why is he still getting health buff? I don't know. I don't know what happened here. Because since the health buff is coupled with the health spell, I don't know why there is a health buff without a health spell, like there is here, like health buff, health spell, health buff, health spell. I don't know where the health spell is for this guy. I don't know. Whatever. I'm probably going to look into that later, because that's a problem with status effects. Then, anyway, we can keep going. The health sap is really bad. It's actually healing him for a little bit more than it is dealing damage, probably because of rounding. That's what I have to assume. Anyway, we can keep going, but at this point, ally, player, actually right here, it's pretty even, because when the ally attacked the player has 131 health. Then when the player attacks the ally, oh no, just kidding, I'm looking at the wrong thing. The ally has 338. Just kidding, the ally is winning by a long shot. And then health sap is doing jack shit, but that's okay. I don't think the player, yeah, the player's not even dealing a lot of damage when he does damage. He's doing 13 damage. He missed. He none because the player shielded himself. So yeah, sometimes you get some crazy combinations that like are heavily in favor of one person. Oh, this one was super close. Look at that. And this video is dragging on, I know, I understand. You could have turned off at any time you wanted, but if you're still here, I have to thank you so much for sticking around. I want to know what happened here. So he has Decimation, which is a 10% chance to damage the target's health and mana by 7%, which is pretty good. Excuse me. He also has Damage Negation, where there's a 10% chance to ignore any instance of damage taken, which is pretty good. Ooh, the ally has Stunning. 10% chance to stun the target, and then health, which doesn't do anything because of the way that I have the weapons working right now. Because this only works if the person actually equips the weapon, but I bypass the equip because these items would be too high of a level, and also sometimes they wouldn't be the right class type. So I just bypassed the equip and went straight to just setting their weapon and armor to this. So these specific specials don't work, which kind of sucks, but it will work whenever I don't do this like rudimentary battle system. So anyway, there's not really a lot of like in terms of super special effects, because as you can see, there's not really much going on. It's just one attacks, the next attacks. Player missed, ally missed. Let's see what happened here. Ooh, the player or the ally stunned the player, and so you can see here. Can cast spells. It's kind of funny looking, but it's a spell type, and it's changing can cast spells, and it's changing it to false. So you see it's true, false, and it's doing the same with can attack. And then right here, player is stunned, so he can't attack, and then he's gonna get stunned for 3 turns. 1, 2, 3, and then on the next attack, he got stunned again from the ally, so he wasn't able to attack again. But ally pops him again. Ally 1 attack player. Ooh, the player actually negated the damage there because he dealt 0 right here. The player stunned, stunned, stunned. That's 3 turns, and so he comes back the next one, attacks for 26 damage. And then, as you can see here, here's the reverting. And so it's a special type itself. It's revert type, and it's reverting can cast spells back to true. It's doing the same for can attack. and you know they're attacking some more, and it basically just goes through all of that until one of them dies. And this was actually a really close battle, and basically that's a lot explained in one video. That is the stat change event explained, that is my specials explained, that is the rudimentary combat explained, and how everything can interact with each other. So that's pretty cool. I'm actually really excited for what my game has to offer, because the thing is, with specials, you can see I have so many. There's almost an endless amount of possibilities in terms of what I can do with specials, and I have like a ton of weapon specials, a ton of armor specials, not so much offhand specials, just because weapon specials deal with offensive specials in terms of like dealing damage, things that revolve around things popping whenever you deal damage rather than you taking damage. Armor specials deal with all the like defensive stuff, like giving you reflect damage or giving you invulnerability or healing buff or health regen and stuff. And it's also dealing with stuff whenever you take damage, again going back to like reflect damage or attack damage resistance or negation or stuff like that. Offhand sort of got like the short end of the stick, where weapons and armor took basically everything. So offhands just deal with stuff that deal with like utility, like your own stats. Like it changes constitution, intelligence, dexterity, quickness, your gold amount that you gain, your armor piercing, you get more damage based on your statistics and stuff. So it's kind of hard to make stuff for offhands, but there's still a good amount. And anyway, I am so sorry that this episode, I don't know if I should call it, it's not really an episode, but like this recording took so long, but I had so much to explain. I tried to power through it as fast as I could. And anyway, I will not take any longer with talking and just end the video here. Thank you everyone for watching, and hopefully you sort of understand a little bit more about my game, and I'll be back a little bit later, hopefully with another video explaining the next portion of my game, which will probably be something with inventory, which will be kind of fun because that's getting into the actual game itself and not just all this code and all this debug text, and you'll actually be able to see like the in-game, you know, pictures and stuff, how you can interact with that. So hopefully you will be around to see what I have in store for that, and for everything else, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.